another beautiful day. I'm talking about the 21st of August 2020. And here on STV, we say, thank God it's a Friday. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much for joining us. And we do appreciate for waking up with us on this lovely day. I know there's a lot to be talked about following on stories that made rounds of headlines yesterday. And it's our job to come here and share with you in depth what you knew yesterday may not be enough for you to consume. So it's our primary job for us to come here and share with you on different stories that made rounds of headlines. My name is Simon Chris Makanga, and we are streaming live on Go TV channel 817, and then start times is 235. And also we are so active on social media, Facebook Live. Thank you so much for those of you that have just joined us. Now, I'm not doing this show alone either. Allow me to say good morning, Latifa Hamid.
Good morning, Simon Chris Makanga, and ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first show, the show that comes your way every Monday to Friday. Today is a Friday, and that means it's the last day of the first show that comes your way, and that means I will sleep tomorrow in the morning and I am not coming here in the morning. Welcome to the show again. For those who have just joined us and who are with us right now, would like to say thank you for being part of the show. And like Simon Chris Makanga said, we have things that we're going to give you that will help you consume and understand the political situation in the country, and that will take you through the weekend until on Monday when we come back and join you on your screens. Na nyinyi ambayo mmondoka saizi, salamu alaikum. Nataka kuwaombea Friday nzuri sana. Mondoke, muoge, mvae nyeupe as is. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as he said, when you wake up on Friday morning, wake up, dress up, shower, put on white, go to the mosque and pray. But this time, because of COVID-19, you're going to be unable to go to the mosque and pray. So stay at home and lead your family in prayer. Simon Chris Makanga, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I like when you say that you can't wait for this day to come to an end so you can go back and enjoy your sleep.
Everybody cannot wait for Friday to come to an end. The week is usually long. You have so many things that happen in between, especially for women who have families out there but have to wake up every morning and go to work. They can't wait for the weekend for two reasons. One is I can't wait to spend time with my family.
Okay.
And two, I can't wait to put my feet down and relax for the weekend.
You know, there's one saying, and this goes out to maybe you slightly, and everyone catching the show.
Okay.
Maybe you could be in your bedroom,
Why
and
aren't you
maybe
confident
the screen is
coming to
making
me or
noise.
not?
There's a saying that the sweeter the bed, the darker the future.
Someone, Chris, it's a weekend. Let the bed be sweet. Come on.
No.
Come on, it's a weekend. Look.
I know it's a weekend,
Look,
but
I have woken up. Imagine this person has woken up every morning at 3 a.m. trying to catch the worm. The earliest bird catches the worm. You wake up every morning and I have caught too many worms in my time of waking up at 3 a.m. And my biggest worm that I have caught is you, our viewers who are watching us right now live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and live on Instagram, all the way from London, Qatar, South Africa, South Sudan, Doha, everywhere. We appreciate the fact that there's a time difference between Uganda and the UK, Uganda and the US, but you make time to sit on your phone and watch what is happening in your country, Uganda, and you trust me and Simon Chris Makanga to bring you the information.
Or maybe namwe abakatuga tako twengera okubaniriza ku the first show gye tusuubira nti egenda kukyusa obulamu bwammwe oba obulamu bwaffe nga bannayuganda n'ensi yonna okutwaliza wamu. Well, omulimu gwaffe okujja wano buli ku makya kwe kwogera ku nsonga eziruma bannayuganda oba ensonga ezikoze amawulire mu Uganda ate wamu n'ebweru w'eggwanga. We twogera olunaku olwaleero ejjo something happened in the Ministry of Health. Eranga bagambye nti ba receiving COVID-19 cases ze batafunangako okuva Uganda buyafuna case ya COVID-19 eyasooka. I think that was on the 21st of March. So Uganda registered about 94 cases of COVID-19 and 2 more death cases were registered yesterday. So it's a big shock for us as Ugandans. Iranga tetumanye bino binagwerawa mu kaseera nga bannayuganda campaign zikutte wansine waggulu ebbugumu mu by'obufuzi ligenze lyeyongera waggulu era tetumanyi whether cases of COVID-19 or Ministry of Health is capable of containing the spread of COVID-19 in Uganda. Latifa, let's begin from there.
Now, I know, Simon Chris, that you're trying to downplay the number of COVID-19 deaths in the country in order not to scare people, but actually Uganda has registered 3 COVID-19 cases. Yes, the 3 COVID-19. Because Simon Chris, what he does is he sees the 3 and he's like, this number's ninja, I cannot give Ugandans this number.
But to be honest,
I mean, it's not something to laugh about.
Yeah,
I have always come to the screen, and one of the things I have said is, can we take it upon ourselves to protect ourselves from COVID-19? Can we not make it an initiative to call upon the government or to depend on the government to protect us, to bring services to the people, to create jobs, in every sense of life. Now, Simon Chris, me and you have been discussing politics in the country. Me and you have been discussing the COVID-19 cases in the country. Now, yesterday we had a discussion of whether the country should go full hound politics, full hound elections, or we should try our best and contain the scientific campaigns and then go to elections as mature people who have known what to do with themselves and who know that COVID-19 is in the country and we ought to protect ourselves from it. 1,705 cases is not a joke. And the cases are rising too fast. Because if you ask, why are these cases rising in the country? The answer will be all these new cases that are rising are actually from the community cases. We are no longer having cases from the border. We are no longer having cases from outside the country being brought in. Now we are having community cases from Kampala. We are having community cases from Chotera. We are having community cases from the people that we are living in and the people that we know. Now, if you look at the COVID-19 deaths that were registered at Simon Chris Makanga, we have 2 males aged 45 and 31. Now, the age of the COVID-19 deaths keep reducing every other day. We have 76-year-old, we have 71-year-old, and a 72-year-old and a 40-year-old. Now we are coming down to 31 and 45. Now, this should only tell us that me and you are not special. Me and you are not different. Me and you can and will suffer and die from COVID-19 if we do not take care of ourselves. Now, the last one was a 57-year-old female. So we have 2 males and 1 female who passed at different private hospitals in the country. We remember Dr. Ian Clark came up and asked the government to try and involve them in the fight against COVID-19. However, Dr. Jen Ruther Cheng said private hospitals are charging very high fees for the test of COVID-19, which she says is uncalled for. Now, these 2 people need to find a way to liaise, need to find a way to talk, because private hospitals are registering too many deaths, not government hospitals. When people have issues, they go to these private hospitals to get treatment. Now, when they're not involved, this is what we're going to keep having. People dying in private hospitals.
Yeah, that is true. And I heard you say that most of the COVID-19 cases are being traced in the communities. And it is evident enough that there is some bit of laxity among us as Ugandans. And sometimes I try to think about it and I'm like, oh, I think we need to cut a slack to Ugandans. I'm talking about Omuntu wa wansi, because when you look at our leaders in the country doing processions, what do you expect Omuntu wa wansi to do?
You know,
when you look at politicians going to different places, collecting people, gathering them together, and they preach their word of politics, and they hardly talk about COVID-19, and then what do you expect Omuntu wa wansi to do? This started with the Minister of Health, Dr. Januth Acheng. We are here Elira nga distributing masks according to her. But what we got to know is that she was politicking. And this has made Ugandans believe like we are living the post-COVID period. However, this is not the kind of message that we should be preaching. Let's accept the mistakes that our politicians have done. Yes, they have held processions, but COVID-19 is here.
Just to
it's
note,
upon us, like you've been saying. Government has done its part. Everyone knows that COVID-19 is there. We have tasted the pain of lockdown. We have tasted the pain of being home without earning a single pain. So that means it's upon us.
Now,
let's put on the mask. We don't know who is symptomatic. We don't know who is not. Okay? Let's not take this as a joke, or let's not relax in regards to this. Waliwo enjogere gentile kwesa wano kumpewo nti abamugamba nti ensi egula mirambo. Yes, kituufu ensi egula mirambo naye nga mu mazima nga temulimu gwa muntu wo. The moment comes close to your family, probably you'll get to know that, oh, COVID-19 is extremely real. But when you look at the number of cases being traced every single day, the death cases sorry about that, the death cases are rising every single day. That means there's need to worry.
Definitely. And when we're speaking about politicians, ladies and gentlemen, we're not speaking about NUP, we're not speaking about DP, we're not speaking about NRM, we're not picking individual political parties, we're talking about every political party in the country and saying that even if you're yellow, even if you're green, even if you're red, even if you're blue, the whole concept is, can we get together and fight COVID-19 as people and not political parties?
Yeah, true.
Yesterday, someone was asking me on social media, and they were like, but Latifa Hamid, you make it seem like COVID-19 only affects NUP. That's why I had to say this. Now, see, the thing is, NUP supporters in particular are passionate about their political leader. Very passionate about Bobi Wine, that it is impressive. Now, their passion for Bobi Wine is what will kill them. Because at the end of the day, you want to see Bobi Wine's face, and that particular thing is going to kill all of us, plus our political leader. Now imagine one person in that group has COVID-19, everybody else is going to be put under quarantine. We've seen NRM officials who bring together people when they're not supposed to, in pretense of protection of the police, which is not supposed to be so either, even if they're the ruling government. In fact, they're the ones that are supposed to set precedent and show example to the other political parties and say, because we are the ruling parties, we are not going to hold rallies, we are not going to do anything that contravenes with the SOPs, but they're the ones that lead the contravening of the SOPs. Now, yesterday, someone, Chris Makanga, on Wednesday, there was a reported case or sad news that befell the country of Uganda, where the music industry lost Alan Arnold, the singer called Shortcut. Now, he's a family in the Bebe Cool, family. He's part of the Zuena Bebe Cool family, and it was a very sad news. However, to our surprise, there were reports that he had died of COVID-19.
I don't want to, it's an allegation.
It's an allegation,
we cannot confirm to it right about now, but now the question is, I know I've seen this circulate on social media, and it got me thinking, now, what if it is true? One, there's going to be, there are some sectors that are going to be blamed. I mean, okay, Minister of Health is going to be subjected to judgment. In Zambia Hospital, where the deceased was being treated, he spent there 40 days.
Yeah, he did.
So 40 days, how many people have been visiting him? We are only assuming that he died of, he succumbed to COVID-19. Like how it is circulating on social media.
However, Bebe Cool says he died from tuberculosis.
Let's assume that maybe he died of COVID-19. What will Zambia Hospital say about it? What will the Minister of Health say about it? Because you can't keep someone bedridden for 40 days, and you can hardly tell that this person has COVID-19 signs and symptoms.
And wait until he dies to confirm that he has COVID-19. You're right about that.
And it really affirms what we've always been talking about, that why is it that Minister of Health is doing tests on dead bodies? Why? That means there's need to empower the private hospitals, because with these people get signs and symptoms, exactly. There's need to empower them. So it's them that get that information, or the amawulire nti ono afudde, then they bakubira Ministry of Health, Ministry of Health neryoka ejja, then batandika okukola test. But it's supposed to be like this. Had we empowered these local or private clinics, ne basobola okuba nga bakola test, kuba oli bwajja ng'alina signs and symptoms, straight away okolerawo test. N'omanya nti this person has COVID-19. N'okubira Ministry of Health nejja nekola ki nemutwala. I think it's so important to empower these private clinics.
Well, again, the discussion is on the table, and the private clinics have to sit and agree among themselves about how to deal with this. Because now we cannot put it all together on the Ministry of Health when Ministry of Health has come up to call upon the private clinics to reduce the price for testing COVID-19. 300,000 is exorbitant. It's just too much. And when they asked them about it, they said, we cannot reduce the price for testing COVID-19 because it is expensive to test for COVID-19. But can we find a way for the government and the private clinics to at least weigh the scales and see how they can reduce the cost for the private clinics, and private clinics can reduce the prices they have for testing COVID-19 so we don't have big numbers in Uganda like we did. 49 new cases is too much for the country, and it is a scare for some of us who know that COVID-19 is in existence. A lot of people have said that COVID-19 does not exist, but like Chris said, you will not know that it exists until you lose one of your own. I have told you, I have a relative who has been admitted in Arua for having COVID-19. So let's respect and acknowledge the fact that there's COVID-19 and work towards protecting ourselves and our families moving forward. Well,
away from that, let's dive into another story that made rounds of headlines yesterday. And there is one that I couldn't wait for us to discuss. And the titular head of Muslims in Uganda, Prince Kassim Nakibinge, oba jjajja w'obusiramu mu Uganda, omulangira Kassim Nakibinge yakyazizza omukulembeze wa National Unity Platform manyiddwa nga Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu era nga basinga bamanyi nga Bobi Wine. They had an indoor meeting that journalists were not allowed to cover. However, when they came out of that indoor meeting, a lot was shared, and this included that the Prince Kassim Nakibinge told journalists that he asked youth to fully participate in the elections of this country, and he also cautioned police or Uganda police to be non-partisan while dealing with the issues of processions, all while dealing with the issue of politicians who are seeking for media coverage.
Now, the meeting between Prince Nakibinge and Bobi Wine has come as a surprise and a big scare to the political parties like NRM, who did not see this coming. Now, one thing about Bobi Wine is I am impressed about how strategic he is. Now, Muslims have been sitting and folding their hands and waiting to see what opposition leader will approach them as soon as can. But now the thing about what Bobi Wine did is that there are two factions in the Muslim center. There's the old Kampala faction and there's the Chibuli faction. Now, Bobi Wine has literally just seen the Chibuli faction and we're waiting for him to go to the old Kampala faction. Now, when we look at what Nakibinge told the media, as you had said, he applauded Bobi Wine for awakening Uganda's young population to know that they're supposed to fully participate in the 2021 elections. He said, we, the youth, have been sleeping and not knowing that our vote counts in making the president or breaking the president.
Well, this was the second meeting with Prince Kassim Nakibinge in just 2 weeks. And Ugandans are wondering what exactly are they talking about. But my assumption would be that there are a few opinion leaders in this country.
Definitely.
If you're to count them, you can't lose your fingers. Let's first have a look at the footage, and then we'll be back to give our opinions in regards to that.
Nsaba bannayuganda bonna okutwalira awamu benyigire mu nsonga z'obukulembeze bw'eggwanga ate bawe bonna abali mu lwokaano lw'ebyobufuzi omukisa okubawuliriza n'okubabuuza bye bamanyi ne bye batamanyi kyesaawa bw'eneetuuka ey'akalulu babe nga balonda ekyo kye bakkiririzaamu. tujja kusaba abalina obusobozi era abaagala nabo babe nga benyigira mu by'ensonga z'obukulembeze bw'eggwanga lyaffe lino Uganda. Nsanyuse nnyo okusinkana ow'ekitiibwa Kyagulanyi awamu ne bannakibiina bonna aba NUP. Mbebazizza nnyo olw'okuba nti basobodde okukunga abavubuka ne bannayuganda bonna okutwalira awamu okuba nti beenyigirira mu by'obukulembeze bw'eggwanga lyaffe lino. Nyongera okumwebaza era okumusaba agende mu maaso n'enjiri ey'okugamba nti ebyobufuzi abantu babyenyigiremu.
So tuzze okweyanjula okumwanjulira ebigendererwa byaffe ne munono okuloopa olutabaalo eri omukulu. Tumusiima olw'okutwaniriza mu mbeera emu gy'azaayanirizaamu abantu abalala, era tweyamye okuba abantu balamu, okugoberera amateeka, okusigala ku ekyo ekituufu n'okuweesa abakadde baffe nga ye ekitiibwa. Tweyanza mukadde waffe, tweyanze ekola omukisa guno kozi n'okuzaamu bannaffe amaanyi eyo nti mugende maaso nga mwenyigira mu nsonga z'obukulembeze naddala mu abavubuka kubanga kitukakatako.
Mu ekyo tujja kusaba n'emikwano gyaffe abakulira ebyokwerinda naddala poliisi babe nga bawa omwagaanya abakulembeze bano okwogeranga ku lediyo oba ne ku mikutu egitali gimu. Emirundi mingi mu ab'amawulire mukitulaze nti ab'obufuzi bano babagaanye okwogera, ekyo ndowooza si kituufu. Era nga bwe tusabye bannayuganda nti beenyigire mu by'obufuzi n'ebeewala ebintu byonna ebimenya amateeka eby'effujjo, tusaba ne poliisi ereme kukola bintu bya ffujjo ng'eyimiriza ng'egaana abakulembeze bano okwogera eri abantu.
Wow, that was a good message going to the Uganda police and all those all Zoom.
You get Oluganda. You get Oluganda, Sebo. You have the opportunity to do that.
That was a good message that was coming from the titular head of Muslims in Uganda, that is Prince Kassim Nakibinge, trying to caution the Uganda police and all other forces that they should be non-partisan while dealing with the issues of politicians who are seeking for media attention or media coverage. Well, he also cautioned the youth to fully engage in the politics of this country, and he uploaded Robert Kyagulanyi Center, also known as Bobi Wine, for having awakened the youth of this country. Now, one would wonder, why is Bobi Wine visiting Prince Kassim Nakibinge? And this is the second time that he is visiting him. Oh, this is the second time that they are having an indoor meeting. However, it is just a few days ago that we saw the European Union also having an indoor meeting with the NUP or National Unity Platform people. And according to their spokesperson, Joel Semyon, he said they were talking matters regarding elections that are going to be happening in 2021. Latifa, like before we went for this video, I was trying to tell you that we have several opinion leaders in this country, people that make a statement and many people react to it. According to me, we have the president, we have cultural leaders, we have spiritual leaders. So those three matter a lot in this country. And whoever is vying for any political position in this country, if you don't have backup of those two people, if you don't have backup for the spiritual leaders, if you don't have any backup for cultural leaders, definitely you can't do any wonders in the political scene.
I was saying when I said Bobi Wine is very strategic and he's a very smart young man, because once you speak to Prince Nakibinge and you get his support after a consultation meeting, then you're getting Muslim factions in Chibuli. Now you have those rounded up, especially the youth. And remember, Chibuli is, I mean, there's a lot of youth. I'll call it infiltrated by the youth. There's a lot of youth in Chibuli. So for him to do that is a very smart move for Bobi Wine. Now, when you look at a few consultations that Bobi Wine has made, they're very strategic consultations, and he knows what he wants as the NUP party president, and he knows the angle in which he is guiding and taking NUP. However, as Robert Chagulanyi, there's a lot that is lacking. There's a lot that he needs to do, especially now that the opposition cries of vote rigging. And this is the first step for the NUP party, and this is the first step for Bobi Wine and Joel Senyonyi as the heads of the party. Now, if you look at the political alignment of Uganda, we've had the opposition parties come up and say the votes have been rigged on and on every time we have elections.
In Africa.
Every time we have elections. And that only means that Robert Chagulanyi, especially him, because he's a new player in the field of politics, he needs to organize himself and align what he wants to do with how are we going to manage the allegations of vote rigging. How are we organizing our voters everywhere we go to make sure that, one, they're registered voters. Two, they know their rights as people, as citizens of the country, and they know that they have to vote. Now, you can see that Bobi Wine has a lot going on. Recently, he said all those politicians who stand beside him and behind him need to stop doing that because all they're doing is seeking media attention. Now, Bobi Wine, as the leader of NUP, has a lot that he's being watched literally. And people are saying if the things he says matters a lot. It's like being an opinion leader in the country and everything you said is earmarked and marked with a red pen. Everybody wants to know, what did Bobi Wine say? And who did he visit? And where did he go? And will what he said influence the voters and the people who are standing beside him? Which is a very tricky position for Bobi Wine.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like we're still discussing the issue of the visiting, the indoor meeting with Prince Nakibinge that happened yesterday. Truth be told, the youth in this country that constitute about 77% of the national population are going to be a battlefield for all politicians. Let's now speak about the presidential candidates that are going to appear on the ballot paper. We have General Mugisha Muntu confirmed. We have General Henry Tumukunde that confirmed. We have Norbert Mao that is going to come on the DP ticket. We have General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. We have Robert Chagulanyi Sentam. Those that at least have confirmed, they actually from the Electoral Commission, they're about 31. But now we are speaking about the prominent one.
The prominent, that's
where the battlefield is going to be. Now, youth are going to be a battlefield. We saw this happen in Nigeria. Nigeria, they have about 80% of their population are youth. Now come to Uganda, which has 78 or 77% are youth. Imagine what is going to be. Who represents the youth? Who do they listen to? What do they want? What challenges do they have? And who has the solution? That is the biggest question.
Well, as we are asking ourselves that particular question, the youth need to organize themselves. Because as we're seeing, Robert Chagulanyi is actually pulling the youth more than the other political parties because he's youthful and young himself when we look at that particular discussion. However, the youths need to organize themselves as well. We can see what happened in the youth elections that just happened.
I know.
Now, these guys, the youth, asked Latif Ahmed, Simon, Chris Makanga, were called to verify their information in the Electoral Commission, system, and not a lot of people went. Although it was a very short time that was given from November 21st to December 9th, and they're given that period to go and register themselves and verify their information. Now, we have seen that a lot of names came missing in the voter register in the youth elections, and many people had, a reason to fight because their names were missing and they were unable to vote their leaders. Now, when this happens in the presidential elections, it is bloody for especially Robert Chagulanyi, who is basing his votes on the youths. This is why I'm calling upon the youths to organize themselves and see that, one, you have a voter guide of your political party. Two, you know your voting position. Sorry about that. Two, you know where you're going to vote. Where is your polling station? Where are you going to vote? Three, you know your candidate by face, by what he says. You pick him from ideologies, not from the money that you're being given. We have repeated this. Get the money, eat it because you need it. But can you make an informed decision when you're voting your leaders into power?
True. Latifa, bana Uganda akaluka fe bakagula nnyo. Politicians buy our vote.
That's why we've always called upon the youth. We need that money.
How can you sell your vote for 50K at most?
Exactly. You need that money. Eat it. But when you're going to your secret ballot, and that's why Uganda has a secret ballot, can we take the person that we want? Or take it? Chris, who is a presidential aspirant, Tagenda Kulaba Muno, you voted for Latifa Hamid. Or take it? Tagenda Jidaba in the secret ballot. So take that opportunity to make an informed decision that doesn't come from someone buying your vote.
Well, you spoke about the youth elections that were conducted on Monday. Actually, I don't know why most people think that was only the youth that were voted. We have the special interest groups that were voted. I think it was only concluded on Monday where we voted the youth, but we had the elderly votes that were casted. We have people with disabilities that were also voted, and then in Vubuka. But we are speaking about the youth because the ground was really hot.
Yes.
And to me, it was a testing ground.
For what is going to happen.
Yes,
exactly.
Specifically for the Electoral Commission, like you said, the reason as to why.
Not only Electoral Commission, Simon.
But when you look at what triggered.
And for me, it is a testing ground and it is a competition and something for the NUP to deal with and correct. Because at the end of the day, for you to lose elections in certain places and not get any votes whatsoever, and yet your biggest majority is the youth, I'm looking back and saying, oh, why? We need mobilization. It's a scary process.
But when you look at the reason trigger to the fighting that went, or the chaos that transpired, Ojja kwesanga nti amanya g'abalonzi gabadde tegaliko ku nkalala.
Yes.
What does that mean to the Electoral Commission? Go back, verify the voters register. Make sure people's names are correct and appear on the voters register, because if the same scenario happens in February 2021, believe you me, we are prone to going even to a worse scenario than what we saw on Monday.
The violence was nothing when it came to the youth elections, because now we're only talking about youth. What happens if it's the general public and Latifa Hamid comes to vote and doesn't?
And your name is nowhere to be seen?
Now, for me, the most important thing that I've always said on this program, and I will say it over and over again, I hate the blame game. One thing that I have grown up doing is not pointing fingers. I refuse that game. Do what you ought to do as the voter. If you need to go and verify your name, correct it. See that Latifa Hamid is my name on the national ID, and on the voter list, my name is Latifa Hamid. Please go and do it, because it's important that as the voter, for you to get the change that you so want to happen in this country. Let's not point fingers. Let's take it upon ourselves to make the Electoral Commission what we want. Let's take it upon ourselves to be the change that we want to happen in the country. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And from that point, the Fight Show is going to be taking a very short break, and we do return with lots of more other stories that are making headlines. For now, we'll be right back.
Abalamuzi babagamba, if the incumbent president frustrates all democratic means to leave power, temusibayo muntu n'omu kutwiza. This is why Besigye is released. Museveni ekibi kyalina talina mawulire. Nawandika n'ekitabo kyange, the role of which could have been malicious society. Sapule njijjamu.
Noyingire sabo.
Katonda wa bujja. Nze Katonda w'obujja. Bw'oba olaga eri, sapule twekitwala. Omusajja omubbi bamujje ewuwe ewaka kabanga lyezi, ne bamujje ewuwe ewaka yabadde mu ttooyi, naye tebamukiriza na tusanatayizi. Bamutadde butesi mu piikaavu mu State House. Naye omukyayina bwe yawulidde nti ono bamukutte, yeesize kiwi yayitiddeko yadduse ng'omuddugavu.
Bampita Dr. Franklin Mondo Mugisha, wanuko STV.
biri ku makyakera nange nga twogera ku nsonga ez'enjawulo engeri tusobola okwezimba mu ggwanga lyaffe engeri tusobola okuzimba gye tubeera gye tuva wategedde obwavu lwa kibuluma mikwano gy'abaavu baani otambula otya osula otya okusalawo okwo okw'obulamu kutandikira ku nfunayo emikwano gy'abagagga n'abaavu tusobola ogitegeera no ku STV tugenda kwogera ku nsonga z'abaslay queen tutambula tutya kukyusa omulembe gw'abawala baffe kubanga bafuuka babuvunaanyizibwa era nga bakozi nga banoonyi ba kikumi tugenda kwogera ku bakanyama bazimba batya emibiri y'omubiri bwe gulimu ssente oba bwe bulamu bwe twetaaga omukazi tasobola kuleka musajja w'emmotoka mukaaga mbwakute akwate 6 pack amufune mbubatambule naye wano ku STV Big Network. See ya.
Hey, what's up everybody? How you doing? My name is Him Kim, the entertainment guru, mastermind of fun, joy and happiness. You are watching STV Select for Fun. Era tubaniriza ku show yaffe.
To see that the video comes out very well because that's our work.
Leero njagala obabuulire ku kintu ekyakuleese wano.
Twaza kushootinga video yaffe bagiyita obulamu bunyuma kufa. Olina kulemerako nga SK Mbuga mwana. Nawe n'obeera influential mwana ku community. Okitegeera mwana.
Okugamba like need to stay with you but we don't shine mano newe obudde you have to sit because I won't say much about that but la chimani ngenje chikolamu ne personal wange ya nyampara train then nange ngomuntu.
Don't miss the free pass every Saturday on STV as we get the exclusive access.
You're watching STV Select for Fun.
Well, a very good morning once again, and welcome to the first show with me, Latifa Hamid and Simon Chris Makanga, the show that comes your way every morning to 9 a.m. when we leave the studios and leave it for Face to Face with Bashir Kaziwe. We're going to have Dr. Mondo with us in the studios very soon, and the energies and the synergies in the studios will rise. Now, before we continue with the headlines of the day, I would like to thank you who has been watching us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and all the other social media platforms. Twitter and not Twitter anymore.
Yeah.
Twitter.
Even the president calls it Twitter.
Twitter. Okay, now I would like to read a few comments that you put up on our Facebook page as we were discussing the different matters of national importance. Now, Nambalirwa Mona Amina was saying that what you're talking about, people not paying attention to verifying their names on the voter register, is very true, because a lot of people are very reluctant, and some youth don't even care about picking their national IDs, or don't care whether they have or don't have their national ID. Simon Chris, do you have your national ID?
Of course I do.
You're sure you do?
That I received a few days ago.
A few days ago.
Yes.
Now, Simon Chris is only showing you that you can go and receive your national IDs. Please, for just a few seconds, tell us about, one, where you received your national ID, and two, what is the process that you went through when you were receiving your national ID?
Truth be told, when the process began in 2014, I was out of the country, and I only returned a few years ago. And you know, when you get a job here, you have to wake up at 3 a.m., leave at around 10 p.m., and Monday to Sunday, so it becomes so hard for you to get maybe a national ID. But not until I went to NIRA offices, Rubaga, and I picked forms. I went to my chairman, LC1, I went to my RDC, and then verified, got a stamp. I took them back to NIRA for free. That's if you've never gotten a national ID. And then you wait for about 3 to 4 months, and your ID is out. Simple as that. If you have lost, Replacement is only 50,000 shillings that you pay in the bank.
All right, there you go, youth. Now you are able to go and pick your national ID, and please do, because now you are calling for a change. You are calling for an election that will lead to a certain point that you want to see your country in future from 2021 to 2025. So you go and pick your national ID, verify your names, and make sure that you are on the voter register. Now, going back to the topic of the COVID-19 cases that we've registered in the country and the COVID-19 deaths that we have registered in the country, Lubega Andrew says, actually, Ugandans, you should be careful on the disease. I saw a person who was affected and was transferred, and I was among the staff who was put on lockdown at the hospital because I took the patient to the hospital. Now, Andrew Lubega is showing us the reality of COVID-19 in the country and outside the country. And these are the things that we're supposed to look at as Ugandans and accept that at the end of the day, COVID-19 is there and we are supposed to be careful. Now, we don't have time to read a lot of these comments. Or all
but let
them.
them keep them coming
And we'll read them. But I'd like to thank Prince Pope, Evelyn Kakasa, Falcon Faz, Lawrence Masembe, and a lot of other people who have been part of this conversation, and keep the conversation flowing, and we will be reading your comments. Now, moving on.
All right, now moving on to another story that made rounds of headlines yesterday. The president of Uganda, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, appointed Justice Alphonse Winnie Dolo as the new Chief Justice of the Uganda. Now, we do remember that in June 2020, the former Chief Justice, Bart Katurebe, clocked his retirement age. That was 70 years of age. Eranga na creating a gap okuberanga twetaaga okubeera ne Chief Justice omupya. Ng'amateeka ge Uganda bwe gagamba nti bo Chief Justice bw'aweza emyaka 7 kitegeeza aba alina okuritaringa n'avaako President n'aba ng'asobola okulonda omuntu omulala. Amannya agaweerezebwa omukulembeze w'eggwanga era nga mwago mwalimu eyali deputy we Alphonse Winnie Dolo. Era luvannyuma omukulembeze w'eggwanga olunaku lw'eggulo yamulonze na era nga kati Chief Justice owa 13 okuva Uganda bweyafuna independence mu mwaka gwa 1962. So for now we are seeing a new Chief Justice. However, to me he was only approved because he was a deputy, and apparently he has been approved as a new Chief Justice.
Well, it was... We saw that coming, like I'll always say. I mean, who else or who is better to represent Bart Katurebe? I'm not calling it replacement. I refuse to call it replacement because Bart Katurebe, of course, there was a mandatory, the fact that he had to now resign from being the Chief Justice because of his age. However, if we look at the achievements that Bart Katurebe has had as the Chief Justice, we don't call it replacement. I refuse to call it that. So Justice the new Chief Justice
Alphonse Winnie
Dolo is coming up to take over what Bart Katurebe left. Sorry, I'm struggling with this. I don't even know why. Because now, as the Deputy Chief Justice, he has seen the process through which Bart Katurebe has gone through, and now he can successfully take over from where he was to, you know, just going ahead with what Bart Katurebe did, with nothing new coming, with not, you know, bringing in any new policies and, you know, disregarding everything that Bart Katurebe did.
A few months ago, I was speaking to the PRO judiciary, and I spoke to Mr. Jameson Karimani. He told me one of the biggest challenges they are facing as a judiciary is corruption. However much former CJ Bart Katurebe tried so much to fight corruption, but it's still a big problem. And one of the biggest achievements is the construction of the new High Court that is under construction.
Yes.
That is one of the biggest achievements of former CJ Justice Bart Katurebe. Now, speaking about what happened in the August House in the month of, I think it was this year, I can't tell what month was it, but the Parliament of Uganda passed the Parliament Administration Bill, the Judiciary Bill 2018, and this one allows all former Chief Justices and their deputies to keep receiving their salaries Okay, I think this is something that is very good, because also the Attorney General, Mr. William Byaruhanga, also commented on this. Nagamba nti ba Chief Justice bwaberanga bali retirees baba bakulu nnyo to be employed in different sectors.
Yes.
So it is necessary for them to be given their salaries. Era tukimanyi si Chief Justice wana Uganda afuna million 2.6 20.6 million shillings. Ate Chief Justice, I mean Deputy Chief Justice, ye afuna 19 million shillings. So Bat Katulebo Justice, Bat Katulebe eyaka vako agenda sigalanga afuna million ze 2.6.
And it's called for, since he has served the country for that long, from 2015, he deserves what is going on, and he deserves where he is, and he deserves what he's getting. Now, going back a little bit to Owindolo, Justice Owindolo, who has finally come in as the Chief Justice of Uganda. He served in the position since August 2017. That is the position of the Deputy Justice Chief. And he replaced Stephen Kavuma, who was the then Deputy Chief Justice. And when we look at also Stephen Kavuma's history, he resigned at the age of 70 when he was in power. And now we're looking at Justice Owindolo being deputized by Justice Richard Butera. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Owindolo and where he's from and why he is fit for the position that he is in right now. Now, when we look at Owindolo, in 1988, he served as the legal counsel in the peace talks between the rebel outfit, Uganda's People's Democratic Movement, and the government of Uganda in that capacity. So he was one of the people that wrote the peace agreement between these two parties, and it passed. Now, he's very influential in the coming of the Ugandan government into the seat that they're in right now. And since 1988, he has been together with the president and the coming in of the NRM, which was NRA back then. So it's very impressive and to see that he has now gotten the position.
Well, tumujukira na nnyo musango gwa tujukira gwali mwaka gwa 2009 Uganda bomu buyakube erugogo. About 76 suspects were aligned, and he was so much active during that in that case. And also we do remember during the Tojikwata Kosaga, Judge Abatule Mbale, he was one of them, and he made his stand. So we do expect a lot from Justice Winifred Dolo.
And given that he was one of the people that constituted the assembly that drafted the Ugandan constitution, again, he is fit for the job that he has been given. Because when you look at the history, from 1994 to 1996, he was part of the team that dealt with the drafting of the Ugandan constitution. So he understands it, he knows what he's doing, and he knows that the lines he ought to take and not to take.
But nainze chenewunyisa lwachi amateeka bagakwatako in front of the judiciary. Tujukira article 102B yakwatibwako era eyakkiriza General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni okubanga agenda kubanga akoma ku ballot paper come 2021.
Yes.
Singa ina tetujja tetwagikwata kunka bolaba nti kati yaba Chief Justice bowezi emyaka 7 kiveemu. Singa n'omukulembeze gwanga yasigalawo nti owezezza 75 chivemu abala nabo bajje bakikwatemu.
You know, it's legal for the President of the Republic of Uganda to be the one to appoint the Chief Justice. We've seen that he has also made changes in the UPDF. However, this now becomes a matter of how do we make independent decisions without thinking that we're angering the person who gave us the job that we're doing. Because if you have the President making decisions of picking who is going to be the Chief Justice and who is going to be the Deputy Chief Justice, now they can't make independent decisions. Chris, for example, SK Mbuga has employed me, okay? I cannot whatsoever come up to the process and stand in front of the screen and say bad things in SK Mbuga's name. I cannot whatsoever, because my job is on the line. I cannot come and pass issues that will put him in trouble. You understand? So there's a lot of, according to what we are seeing, there's no independent decision making that is going to happen when the president is the one that is appointing these people in power.
This is what happens, Latifa, and everyone watching the show, that names are sent to the president. it's only so lost on me that I can't remember the other 2 names, but there were 3 names that were sent to the president, and Justice Winfred Dolo was one of them. And the president nominates or chooses or appoints, and then the names or the people that have been appointed are taken or are sent to the parliament for vetting. So it's upon parliament to come and to sit down and say that the names that have been appointed or the people that have been appointed are not worth serving that position.
I know,
so
I well know
exactly
the
happens.
Position that happens. I know the process that goes through in the vetting of these people. However, if the head of the state has given a name to the parliament or a number of names to the parliament, the percentage in which they will refuse this particular person is limited.
This reminds me during the KCCA scenario that happened when they sent Miss Dorothy Chisaka's name, and
there's
down
only much
wansi
you can do.
wansi waliwo close wansi way statement nti tukozesezza obukugu bw'amaanyi nnyo mu kunoonya abantu bano. So public service, kindly help me and vet these names and see whether they are suitable.
You cannot say no to names brought up by the president.
Tukozesezza obukugu bw'amaanyi. It is so convincing. Kati, who are you, Minister wa Public Service? Okugana obantu yenda tebano tebasana. So I think the same thing happens, that whatever decision is made by the president, it is persuasive towards the parliament for them to make a decision.
Exactly. So it's hard for even the chief justices to make independent decisions. However, we appreciate this particular appointment and we know that he's fit for the job that he's been given and he's going to be a wonderful chief justice.
All right.
Yes.
And now moving on, we are going to another story that made rounds of headlines yesterday. Oh my God, Uganda is sweet.
I love my country.
Atari Uganda, mwabali mu diaspora, temanyi what you're missing. Uganda, wadenga theaters bazigala. We are not missing out on anything. Simply sit home, watch STV, laba mawulire gafa agenjawulo, laba morning show kumacha, uchija kuba chikumala. Olunaku olwejjo, Central Executive Committee obaba delegates ba NRM balonze abantu omwenda abatuula ku Central Executive Committee ya National Resistance Movement. Iranga mwabo abalondeddwa, we have the provisional results that Latifa will be reading them later on. But the most interesting part that happened yesterday, echikonde chanyose awo Chaddondo, iranga omu gwe tumanyi nga yali boxer, yali mukubi wa bikonde, yagezezaako okujjawo skills ze, n'agezaako kuba omu kuba campaigning manager ba Salim Uhuru. Let's first take a look at the video and then we'll be right back.
They don't want you. Why are you fighting? Stupid. Stupid. That's why your head is there. He has lost here in this one fight. You want to fight what? Stupid. Why are you fighting? Manyoko yako. Back over, back over. Back over. Only one vote. One vote only. Then for the 99%. Adi Mukuruana here. What do I achieve? They don't want you. Why are you fighting? Stupid. Stupid. That's why your head is there. He He has lost here and he wants to fight. You want to fight what? Stupid! Why are you fighting? Manyoko yako. Bakowa. Only one vote. One vote only. Zenfunde 99%. Adi Mukurwana here.
See, the thing about politics is the fact that a lot of people who are vying at the same positions are going to have issues like these. Okay, if some issues are not streamlined, it's fun for me, the viewer out here, to see these people tussling it out and actually physically fighting themselves for the fun of it. However, it's sad for the politics of Uganda to be that way. Now, when you look at that particular race, we had Salim Uhuru, who was one of the people in the race. We have Godfrey Nyakana, who was the boxer himself in the race. He actually deserves the name right now, and he will reserve it, we'll give it to him. And then we have Honorable Singh Katongole, who seems to have driven these people and taken this particular position. And it's sad to see these two people fight, but failing to get the position that they fought for. Now, taking us through the announcement of the CEC elections and the different positions that happened, we know that as the chairman, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni went through unopposed, and we see that the first vice chairman, Moses Chigongo, went through unopposed. Now, we'll not forget that there was a very steep competition between Persis Namuganza and Rebecca Kadaga. However, in the beginning of the competition, Persis Namuganza was giving Rebecca Kadaga a bloody nose.
I know.
She was really leading the rest, and people were skeptic and saying, oh, why, Rebecca Kadaga, what happened? Or what did she? We actually thought you were leading, but what is going on? However, after that, Rebecca came back and won with a landslide. Now, Rebecca got 6,776 votes, and Persis Namugonza got 3,943 votes. Now, we can see that Rebecca, well, she won with a landslide, and she got to where she knew she was going to get to, and we all knew she was going to get to, given her experience in where she's sitting. Hopefully, Persis Namuganza will come back next time and she will win this election, because she has shown us that she is not an easy person, and she will win these elections. Now, looking at the vice chairperson Western region, we had Dini Emmanuel, who Simon Chris Makanga has interviewed in these studios before. We had Major General Matayo, Charlie Gonza, who was part of the competition, and then we had Chris Munsi, who was part of the competition. Now, Dini got 224 votes, which was the lowest among these three people. And then Major General Matayo had 2,550, and Chris Munsi, who was announced the winner, had 5,947. Yes, now 47 votes. Now, Chris, what do you think about that particular competition in the Western region?
Yes, I think there's lack for democracy within the NRM, because
why would you say that?
Youth are not equally represented, because when you look at that race where you have General Matayo Charlie Gonza, you have Honorable Chris Baryomunsi, and then Dr. Dini Chisembo. Dini Chisembo is the youngest amongst all those. And when you look at all the members or SEC members, all of them, Dini was the youngest. And there was need for at least to have a youth representative on the Central Executive Committee of the National Resistance Movement.
Well, these competitions were stiff, Simon Chris Makanga. And like you said, we have had the politics in Uganda of experience versus opportunity. A lot of youths have failed to get the opportunity because you cannot compete with people who have been in the seat for longer than you and have experience. We've seen that not only in the politics of the country, but also job seeking, because you go somewhere and they tell you, unless you have a 10 years experience, you cannot get this particular job. But how am I supposed to get experience if I'm not given the particular job that we're talking about? So we are seeing that happening with people like Dini Emmanuel, and by the time he went for the Western region competition, people saw him as you know, that competition being too heavy for someone like Dr. Dini. And people were questioning why he went for a position that had two major dogs, two major lions in the competition. And we can see that out of the 5,000 votes and the 3,000 votes, he got 200. And that only shows the milestone that he needs to go as a youth, as a person with lack of experience in competing in such elections.
Well, we also need to cut him a slack on that. Like I've always told you, Latifa, when you look at, when you mention the name General Matayo Charlie Gonza, you mention the name Dr. Chris Baliomunsi. Yes. When you mention those two names in different regions, let me say the eastern, the northern, at least there will be some people that will know something about those names. But Dr. Dean Emmanuel Chisembo's name may be so popular where he comes from in the western part of this country, but in other regions, he's absolutely unpopular.
That's exactly what we're saying. But again, I salute him for competing in these particular elections, because unless you have
he has really put in a lot.
You cannot go into such a competition. And I like that he knew, or he thought that he would take over these elections. It takes a lot to know that you can compete against such big names.
Now, another stiff competition that we've been talking about almost the entire week, the competition between the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honourable Rebecca Kadaga, and Honourable Persis Namuganza. Out of the 11 districts that make the Busoga region, the Speaker of Parliament, Akaluyaka Wuse Wuse. And what is so shocking, where Honourable Persis Namuganza comes from, she comes from Namutumba. Honourable Speaker of Parliament got 48, and Honourable Persis Namuganza got 18 votes.
You cannot insult the leader of Busoga region and then expect to go through. I mean, really, it doesn't make sense. Remember what we said, the most influential people are religious leaders, cultural leaders, and big political party names, say the president. Now, Persis Namuganza made a mistake of insulting the cultural leader of the Busoga region.
But truth be told,
at the end of the day, you don't expect to win under that particular,
those debates.
You know, I mean, we will. And we took part in the debates, and some people were partisan, some people were passionate about other people, and we remember that happening. We will keep remembering the match between the three powerful women that happened in Uganda.
I know. Well, what you still having the results?
Yes, Honorable Sam Engola was thoroughly beaten by Jacob Olanya. That is also something we saw coming. That was expected indeed. We saw that coming, and we knew that was going to happen. Now, the central region was led by Honorable Chiwanda Subi, who was in the deadly tight race with Kalangwa.
Of course, that one, when you put the two names on the weighing scale.
There's some things we expect that I don't even want to go through right now. Because if you look at the polls, there's some names that we expected would win this race. So there was no, question about it.
But for Sinka Tongole and Uhuru,
Uhuru,
and then Godfrey Nyakana, I think that was also a tight race.
It was.
Godfrey Katonga has been very prominent. I mean, what's his name? Nyakana has been active. Salim Uhuru has been very active.
I like Nyakana and then, for his activeness.
The Katongole guy, Sin Katongole. I remember the race that was 2016. That guy was very active. I've not seen an Indian Ugandan person wrestle or muscle for a vote like he did.
Well, that is it for the CEC elections. We had fun, we had the fight, we had winners, we had losers, but that one is also done and gone, and now we're waiting for the final 2021 general elections. Now, before we go out of the studios from our main topic of discussion, Simon Chris Makanga, the President of the Republic of Uganda addressed the nation yesterday, and he had a number of things that he talked about.
Yeah, the President of Uganda indeed addressed the nation yesterday, and was specifically speaking to the Central Executive Committee elections that were held yesterday. And ngafe bana Uganda baba na mawulire tetuyinza kubasinga his address on only the NRM party, but we pick out a few comments that are made by the President, and it's our job to scrutinize or make them easy for you to understand. Now, the President of Uganda said that they are so-called elites, and me I call them the corporates. that have sabotaged the projects of NRM. And he said they are within the NRM. For instance, he talked about the UPE project. Yeah, according to the president, yagambye nti project eyo yali yakuyamba abaana bonna abatalina mwasirizi. Bw'oba ozadde omwana ng'aliko obulemu ku mubiri ng'oba takusobola, oyo omwana was supposed to be inherited by the NRM party, according to the president. So n'agamba a project ng'eyo yalemesebwa the so-called elite.
Now, what I like about this whole topic, and that's one of the things that caught my attention in the president's speech, although he talked about a number of things, is that he acknowledged that this project are stifled by themselves as the NRM party. He now knows that the parasites that he has been talking about are actually from the then NRM party. They're surrounding him. And we hope to see that the metal hand that he has been applying in these different entities in the country, he will apply in his party as well. He talked about the programs that SACCOs have been put up for the youth that have been stifled by the NRM themselves. Now, this is what Dr. Mondo always calls budget. The budget that passes underneath. Now, when a certain budget is put up, this particular NRM, officials who are supposed to pass those budgets and make those projects work are the same NRM officials that cut the budgets and take some of the money for themselves to build their houses and feed their families and fly outside the country, which is one of the topics that the president talked about when we talk about flying out of the country. He says now that the borders have been closed, Uganda is seeing more money that is circulating in the country, and our rate is actually increasing because people are not carelessly traveling out of the country.
True.
Chris, when you look at how much money the government and the members of parliament have used to fly out of the country, it is saddening.
True.
Now, this is the particular competition that we have seen happening between Rebecca Kadaga, the Speaker of Parliament, and the Deputy Speaker, Olanya. Now, the thing is, Olanya had the audacity or had the, agreement to travel out of the country whenever he felt or he deemed that he needed to. Now, he traveled out of the country, picked 3 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 10 members of parliament to travel with him outside the country. Now, when the Speaker of Parliament got into power in 2011, he took that power away from Olanya and said, whenever you want to travel, you're going to come to me to seek permission. I will see where you're going to go. I will vet the people you're going to. I will choose the people that you're going to travel outside the country with. A lot of Ugandans' taxpayers' money was being used for these particular members of parliament to travel outside the country.
Well, before we call for footage, Latifa, have you asked yourself, that
is exactly what I was thinking. If it's not going out of the country to have a meeting with delegates or heads of states from another country, it is because they are sick. If they're not sick, then there are other people are sick, their children, their parents, their siblings are sick. They have used the taxpayers' money to travel out of this country and seek treatment in hospitals outside the country. So thank you, COVID-19, for coming into the country. Now
every dark cloud has got its own silver lining.
Now we know that we have hospitals in Uganda that can treat these particular members of parliament.
Uganda. Let's have a look at the footage and remember the business angle with Genesis. Also be looking at that, whether what the president said is true, that the Ugandan currency is now getting value, gaining value compared to the dollar. For now, let's take a look at the video and then we'll be back.
There are programs of the NRM which are stifled by the elite. Take the program of free education. From 1996, when we started having a little bit of money in the budget, 1996, when we started having a little bit of money in the budget, I introduced UPE. UPE, I wanted it to be free education for the children of the poor. But it has never taken off because it is opposed by the local elite. The local Badasobako in the villages there. So no, you must make a contribution. A contribution these families may not afford. The other time when I was having a countrywide tour, I put this question to the NRM leaders. You go village by village and pass a resolution whether we should have totally free education or whether the parents should make a contribution and whether they can afford. Because some of the people are saying, basobola, they can. Basobola, nebekoza. They can, but they are pretending that they cannot. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. So I therefore demand that the NRM, I will tell the new Minister of Local Government to put this question to all the village councils. Can the families afford to pay school fees? If they cannot, there should be no school fees in government schools. Let the children study free. If the rich want to pay, they can go to private schools. They can go to the high class government schools, those with doors and tari and so on. But our schools in the villages, I want the children to study free, so that it does not become an obstacle. But this one has never been implemented because it is opposed by the local elite. And that's how you find these children who are uncatered for. In Uganda we say abatalina mwasirizi, abana abatalina mwasirizi. The children of single mothers, the orphans. This is what I've been talking about now for 20 years. Implement my program of free education. Stop these school charges. I read a very good report by one of our cadres who is going back into competitive politics, Bill Maso. He wrote me a report recently. You know, that fellow was in ISO. I read it. Exactly what I suspected. There are many families who cannot afford, but they shouldn't out of school. This is a people's program. The NRM should have no two ways about it. They should not listen to local elite who are looking for business. They want to collect money from children, then they start to buy kawunga locally. It is all a business. So they are the ones who created this disadvantaged group. If a child is disadvantaged by birth, the NRM should inherit that child. Emulabirire oba talina mwasirizi, NRM yaba erabirira omwana oyo. That's my view. Then you come to the issue of drugs in the health centers. Oh, these drugs are always being stolen. So you wonder, but how can the drugs be stolen? There is a GISO in every sub-county. Why doesn't this GISO know these drugs which are being stolen? But anyway, we are going to work out a computer program to deal with the issue of the drugs. Then the issue of land evictions. Land evictions. Why should people be evicted illegally from their land when we have got NRM MPs in these areas? Bakola ki kulwakite barwana ku bantu nti abagaga cannot be stronger than us. It is because we don't have information. The woman MP for Mityana, our minister, there are programs of the NRM which are stifled by the elite. Our minister, Nabakova, came and made alarm about people who are being evicted from her area, and we went and defended them. So to allow people to be evicted is a failure by the NRM political elite. That's how you create now these children who are marginalized and are used by the enemies of Africa. like these foreigners who are coming to use our children. Then the question of the emyoga. Recently, I introduced emyoga. This is okay. NADS is for agriculture. NADS is for dealing with abakorera ekida kyonka, to fight that war of abakorera ekida. Teach, may each keken. But and that one will continue. We shall continue with that one. It is parish-based operational wealth creation. That's for NADS, operational wealth creation. But there are these emyoga, these specializations, metro work, carpentry, tailoring, my enviri are all right, they don't need any attention, but apparently the cattle areas need some to go regularly to some maintenance center.
Oh yes, that is the president of Uganda, Junior Kaguta Museveni. Yabadde ayogerako Joe eri aba National Resistance Movement nga oluvannyuma lw'okuba akalulu ka Central Executive Committee oba okulonda ba members abatuula ku Central Executive Committee oba akakiiko akasingayo obukulu mu kibiina kya NRM. Well, ayogedde ku bintu bingi nnyo era nga nja tutandikire ku kintu ky'emyoga. Emyoga kigambo nooza kya Lunyankole naye nga kitegeeza projects eziteekebwawo gavumenti omuli NADS n'okuyambako abavubuka okufominga SACCOs nga gavumenti ebateekeramu ssente. Tukimanyi bulungi nnyo nti it's a good initiative, but it has got its own weaknesses, and we know why NADS failed to achieve its objectives. Latifa, what do you make of that?
Well, when we look at the various projects that have been launched by the government of Uganda, it has done its part in trying to stifle the unemployment in the country. Now, when we look at the various issues that have been happening in circles formed by the youth and loans that have been put up for the youth to pick up, we've seen that, one, it's difficult for the youth to access these loans that have been put by the government. The process that have been put for these youths to go for these loans are very difficult, and some of them the youth do not know about. Now, when we see these certain failures that are coming up, a lot of people will point fingers at the president. But this time, he has come up to distance himself from these accusations that have been made, saying that the people he, puts up to take care of those projects are the ones that are actually stifling those projects. How do you put up a youth loan scheme and then not communicate to the youth in that region that you guys have a loan scheme and this is how you're supposed to get it? How do you put up a circle of youth and not help them, guide them towards how to make it survive through the wind and the rain that comes through in business times? So the president giving us money and putting up all these projects is not good enough and will not be good enough until he puts up trustworthy people to run these projects.
Yeah, true. I remember when NADS came up, Latifa, there are several people who are registering different youths. Eranga mwabo, the process kyekyasinga okunyiiza. The process was designed on abooluganda, abako, n'emikwano.
Isn't that how Uganda has always been when they're launching projects?
So, chikuwa ekifaananyi nti if you have that kind of organization, yes, the president has done a big, has introduced a good project. Nti sente zino zigende mu saaku y'abavubuka, zibayambeko okwejja mu bwavu. Naye ate bali bagamba mu forming esako for you to get that money. Kati bano abali wansi, ba president bayita the so-called elite who are sabotaging these projects. Bakikola nenga tebamanyi. Process gye bakola bakuŋŋaanya abantu abo. How they make circles. Ne babasuulamu ssente. They are not educated on the different projects. Babagamba muteekemu bin poultry. But they hardly know nothing about poultry. Eventually babitaddemu ssente, myezi 2-3, enkoko zifudde, no one is checking on them, no one is doing follow-ups.
How much money do they put in it? Now this is where the problem comes in. Batekamu sente, but how much money are they putting in those projects? Are they putting the money that ought to have been put in those projects? Simon Chris, olaba woboli na project. and there's 10 billion that has been put to run the project, and then you cut 5 billion out of it, you have killed the project. Because if the project was supposed to start with chicks, and then the chicks were supposed to be immunized, or to a center for immunization of those chicks. Now, as I'm speaking right now, for the youths who are listening to me right now, I want to ask a question. How many of you have actually gotten money to run some of these government programs or have been part of these government programs? And how many of you have actually gone through them and made yourself money out of this government program?
Actually, the essence of these projects, Latifa, and everyone watching the show, is that government take out cent. Never vuka mukole circles. Mwewele sente baziba wabui. It's not for free. It's not free money.
Oh, definitely. The loans.
Government lends them money. They invest into different ventures, repay that money, and then different groups or different circles also go and borrow the same money. That was a good project.
We need
but
training
how it died, you and I hardly know.
We need training in the process, Simon. Tusobora kuwa abavubuka sente, and you don't train them on how to maintain their project. They say Uganda is one of the biggest countries in Africa with startup businesses, but is also the biggest country in Africa with startup failures, with business failures. And that means we do not have enough training for people when it comes to businesses. We are not training these youth enough to run the businesses that they're given. Now, when you look at projects that the youth have started, such as carpentry, coffee farming, these circles have come up. They're powerful, they're strong, and these youth have started businesses that they have run. However, the fact that we do not have business identities, we are not so good in business, and we don't have advisors from these places where this money is coming from, is what is killing these projects that the government has put up for the youth.
Now, the most recent one, at least maybe government can wake up and follow it keenly, is the 2 billion and the 20 billion that was passed. 2 billion was passed by the president, and then 20 billion directed the Ministry of Finance through Honorable Matia Kasaija. But take a musako yaba private teachers. You remember that?
I do.
So government should wake up at this time round. Into whatever fulumiza now 22 billion is again a musako zaba private teachers. Can that money be traced? Can we follow up on the different projects that are going to be that people are going to invest in? Tusolo following atugambe nti sako zezo sente bazitadde muchi zinakomawo. Can other teachers also borrow the same money? Let this be a lesson. Eziba nadzi byagana byafa kati sako z'abasomesa.
If they don't do it, basomesa bagenda kutandika okukuza weed like the other teacher did. They're going to start going into farming of weed, and then they're going to come and approve their weed and say you're not doing right. Now, see, the problem is if you don't put back money in the citizens of your country, you're going to have a big number of people who are going to go into illegal issues to make money.
True.
All of us, Simon, Chris, the reason why insecurity is on the rise in our country, we have too many unemployed youth. At the end of the day, when people don't have what to do, the only thing they want to do is engage themselves in illegal activities. Because when you look at this teacher who went on to grow marijuana as a way of making money and a way of living for him, who has been out of school for 5 months without anything that they're doing, especially private teachers. Because when you look at the government teachers, they're still getting money. They're still being paid. Now, private teachers have an issue. Now, how do we help them as a government is where this project came up. Because if we don't do such projects, we're going to have a lot more illegal activities in the country.
True. The president really talked about so many things yesterday, and it will be so hard for us to break down each and everything
yes,
that he talked
it will.
about.
I think, Chris, the other thing that caught my attention with what the president said was he called out on politicians who are using tribalistic lines and who are using religious lines to get votes from people out there. Now, this is a very, very important information and very sensitive information from the president. We remember what happened in Rwanda. The politics of tribalism is what happened in Rwanda. The genocide.
About 1 million people had to die.
Exactly.
To Latifa and everyone watching the show, truth be told, olutalo olukyasinza okubeerayo obubi olubi ennyo ku nsi yonna lwe lutalo lw'amawanga. And I want to support the president on this, that whoever comes out to fuel
tribalistic tendencies needs to stop.
Needs to stop. omuntu avaayo n'ayogera ku nsonga z'amawanga, ku nsonga z'amachurch. Tujjukira, we had a tribal war in Uganda, we had a religious war in Uganda, and you know what happened in Rwanda. About 1 million people had to die for Rwanda to stabilize.
Exactly.
So do we want to take that
Do we
line
want to spill blood in Uganda? I mean, it's fun for us to sit there and joke about the fact that Westerners are taking over the country. Abanyankole, they're the ones who are rich because the president is in power. What happens if a Muganda president takes power? Are we also now going to change the tribalistic lines to now say Abaganda, they're in power, and Baganda are worse than the Westerners, and now we wish the Westerners are back? Can we stop playing the tribalistic card? It's a very dangerous card to play, you know.
Well, the president also condemned the misuse of social media in Uganda, whereby abantu abamu bavaayo ne babika Kabaka wa Buganda.
The Kabaka story has been trending for a while. There was a time when someone put on social media and said Kabaka is very sick, very ill, and on his deathbed. Now, we've seen social media being used very negatively for the past few, months. And bloggers are part of the people that
who pays them?
There's a lot that happens in the bloggering line. When you are very popular as a blogger, you have people come onto your page to advertise. Now, this is where bloggers do whatever they can to be popular, because once you are, then you have advertisement, then you have money. Now, when it comes to popularity, people will do whatever they ought to do to be popular. And this is where issues like Kabaka's death is going to come. Remember when we had the lockdown coming up, and recently someone put on us, and we had a lot of fake accounts from the Ministry of Health. We had a lot of fake accounts from the president, and they were saying we're going to lock down the country again, we're going to, and all these issues were happening. And once you as a blogger, once you as the person who takes the responsibility to inform other people, gives them wrong information, you're feeding the nation with information that could potentially lead to violence. You get it? See, right now, if I, as a public figure, someone who has been on TV to give information, goes on my Twitter handle and says the government has officially communicated and said we're going back to a 90 days lockdown. Someone, Chris Makanga, what would happen?
Definitely, it will fuel a lot of conflict.
That's what I'm trying to say.
And I'm wondering who pays them? And what do they benefit from defaming different
popularity people? And being paid money.
They're hungry. What I know about bloggers, they're hungry for likes and comments. But what do you gain from that after people, or after you've triggered a conflict between different people? Otherwise, that also needs to stop.
It does.
And thanks to the Katikiro of Buganda, Peter Maiga, yavuddeyo nakiklarifyinga n'agamba nti omutanda gyali mulamu. According to what I saw, yavuddeyo nakiklarifying and cleared the air in regards to that, and said that the Kabaka of Buganda, His Highness Ronald Muwenda Mutebi Owokubiri,
he's in Masai Mara. He's actually in Masai Mara for a vacation. A lot of people have also speculated that he has gone to Masai Mara to have tests because he's ill. However, the reports are he is very fine, he's okay, and as is the tradition, he has gone to Masai Mara for a holiday, but he will be in the country very soon.
Well, in a related development, the president of Uganda also talked about, he cautioned journalists who take bribes from different politicians, especially during this political season. If you keep on doing that, they are going to withdraw their certificates.
Speaking of politicians who are taking sides, especially in this political season, we are also looking at politicians plus the media that are saying COVID-19 is non-existent. He cited Honorable Zake and said that he should stop telling people COVID-19 is not in existence, and the government is using this to get their numbers high. I mean, if the government was using this to get their numbers high, then they would say there's no COVID-19 and everybody should move the way they want to. Now, a lot of people say there's a hidden agenda when it comes to the COVID-19 situation, and the government is using this particular COVID-19 situation, one, to raise their numbers in elections, two, to get money from international bodies, and three, to control the people of Uganda. However, even when the government is using this particular COVID-19 situation to do the things that we say or allege that they're doing, we have seen people die. Not only in Uganda, but we've seen the biggest death toll in Italy. We've seen the US register death numbers, and we've seen South Africa register crazy death numbers. Now Uganda is at 19 death cases. You cannot whatsoever tell people that COVID-19 is not real.
Well, there's a lot that was said by the president. Eranga muze kubimwe byasinzo okunsanyisa. The president of Uganda, Yagambye, he cautioned those that have internal conflicts within the NRM. Yagambye, they should stop blocking each other. I'm pretty sure that was talking about the rival between Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament and Honorable Persis Namuganza. He didn't mention names. Yagambye, those that have internal conflicts within the party, it's high time they stop that. However, he also commented about the recent completed youth elections that were held on Monday. He uploaded his presidential advisors, that was Full Figure ne Butcherman. Yagambye bakoze omulimu gw'amaanyi era yagambye nti balina amaanyi wansi ku ground nti be bakyusiza okulaba nga NRM bawangudde akalulu k'abavubuka.
He also cited the violence that happened in the youth elections and said whoever thinks they're going to drag the violence that happened in the youth elections to the main general elections of the 2021, he is going to have them punished, and punished in the biggest way that he can. Now, going back to Full Figure and Butcherman, truth is, Butcherman has a following, Simon Chris Makanga.
Yeah, he is.
And Full Figure has a following of her own as well. And for those two people to be in president's camp has actually helped. Truth is, it has helped them create a mileage in the ghetto family and among the youth.
I wouldn't want to say no to that, because everyone has been seeing the two presidential advisors very active.
Very big positions for them.
Unlike one that was forcing around with the bunch of money. Nagamba zino sente za NRM, what. You remember that video that went viral on social media? And I remember she was called and cautioned in regards to that. But for Butcherman, yes, he stood the pain to stand against his former friend.
I know.
And
choices that we make.
Yeah, he made the right choice according to me. Okuvayo nagamba nti wadengo obadde munywanyi wange, and we believe in the same ideologies. I'm talking about Robert Kyagulanyi or Bobi Wine. Bobi Chamani okuvayo na taking a bold decision. I think to me it was man enough.
Well, it was. Well, that is it for the president's speech. For you who failed to catch it, we ran it on STV. And if you go on our Facebook page, you will definitely find that running. Now, let's go for a break. And when we come back, we'll be looking at Genesis with the business hand. And we'll see what she has for us and what she will be teaching us today. What are the forex rates and what the president said. How true is it that Ugandan's currency is actually doing better, that now people are not traveling?
Abalamuzi babagamba nti if the incumbent president frustrates all democratic means to leave power, temusibayo muntu n'omu kutwiza. This is why Besigye is released. Museveni ekibi kyalina talina mawulire. Nawandika n'ekitabo kyange the role of which could have been a malicious society. Sapule njijjamu
noyingire sabo
katonda wa bujja, nze katonda w'obujja. Bw'oba olaga eri sapule twegitwala. Omusajja omubbi bamujja ewuwe ewaka kabanga lyezi, ne bamujja ewuwe ewaka yabadde mu ttooyi naye tebamukiriza na tusanitize, bamutadde butesi mu piikaavu ba mu State House. Naye omukyayina bwe yawulidde nti ono bamukutte yeesize kiwi yayitiddeko yadduse ng'omuddugavu.
bampita Dr. Franklin Mondo Mugisha wano ku STV biri ku makyakera nange nga twogera ku nsonga ez'enjawulo engeri tusobola okwezimba mu ggwanga lyaffe engeri tusobola okuzimba gye tubeera gye tuva wategedde obwavu lwa kibuluma mikwano gy'abaavu baani otambula otya osula otya okusalawo okwo okw'obulamu kutandikira ku nfunayo emikwano gy'abagaga n'abaavu tusobola ogitegeera no ku STV tugenda kwogera ku nsonga z'abaslay queen tutambula tutya kukyusa omulembe gw'abawala baffe kubanga bafuuka babuvunaanyizibwa era nga bakozi nga banoonyi ba kikumi tugenda kwogera ku bakanyama bazimba batya emibiri y'omubiri bwe gulimu ssente oba bwe bulamu bwe twetaaga omukazi tasobola kuleka musajja w'emmotoka mukaaga mbwakute akwate 6 pack amufune mbubatambule naye wano ku STV Big Network. See ya.
Patula shinyuma newe wobudde you have to sit I won't say much about that wabula kyemmanyi engeri gyenkikolamu nepatana wange yampala train then nange ng'omuntu.
Don't miss the free pass every Saturday on STV as we get the exclusive access.
Hey guys, you're watching STV Select for Fun.
Olwogoto lwa waaka.
Nkoye okunvuma leka nkwanike nkoye okuyiswamu amaaso kankuswaza oyige
ekintu kyolina okikuluga bwe kimala ne kigwawo olwo n'opapa newejjusa ntisinga nakivaako.
We've come from so far and I ain't about to give it all away.
Hitaji la kuwa na wewe nikubali nikuweke moyoni sazewo kwibwenonze omubanji wadde ebizibu byaffe bingi kusuubiza omukwano mungi na buli kalungi sazewo kwibwenonze omubanji. Dance with me, you got to shake it for me, shake it for me.
Hey guys, you're watching STV Select for Fun.
Everything from current affairs to sports to business to entertainment with Dr. Mondo, who is unable to be here with us because he's not feeling well. Dr. Mondo, we wish you a quick recovery and hope we'll have you in the studios with us on Monday. Now, looking at the word of wisdom today, before we go to Genesis for the business segment, I will look at a quote from Zig Ziglar's book called See You at the Top. Now, according to Zig Ziglar, he says the foundation stones of honesty character, faith, integrity, love, and loyalty are necessary for a balanced success that includes health, wealth, and happiness. In order for you to have health, wealth, and happiness, you need the founding stones of honesty, character, faith, integrity, love, and loyalty. Now, as you go onward and upward in life, you will discover that if you compromise any of these principles, you will end up with only a beggar's portion of what life has to offer. Well, that is what we have for you in the wisdom section. I will take you straight away to Genesis to take us through the business segment. Hello, Genesis. How are you doing?
Hello, Latifa. Good morning, everyone. The weekend is actually knocking. I hope you guys are expecting it. Yeah, with or without curfew, Ugandans always have a way to make it worthwhile. Now, my weekend actually started a little bit sooner as I witnessed a friend get married, and I want to take this opportunity and on behalf of the STV crew, wish Mr. Allen and Carol a blessed and blissful marriage. Good morning and welcome to the business show. It is me, Genesis, bringing you the business angle here on STV. Now today, I want us to talk about how the lending rates. I want us to talk about the lending rates today, how the lending rates affect the circulation of money in the economy. Now, we have what they call a CBR. The CBR is the central banking rate. This is set by the Bank of Uganda when it is lending money to the domestic banks. Talking about domestic banks, I mean banks like Equity Bank, Stanbic Bank, the local banks in the country. Now, when the central bank sets a central bank rate, that's the CBR, yeah, the domestic banks also set a rate for themselves. Now, the local banks can either make the rate high or will make it low. Now, that depends on the bank, but that is where the trickle-down effect, therefore affects the exchange rates. Now, this is what I wanted us to talk about today. The rates can either be low or high. When the rates are very high, it means that very few people will be able to borrow money from the banks. Hence, little circulation of money in the economy of the country, meaning that the foreign rates will be higher, the foreign currencies will be higher, and the local currency will be weaker. I don't know if you're understanding me, but that is exactly what it means. That is why I want us to talk about the rates today. Let us see the rates today. The US dollar is buying at 3,673 and selling at 3,683. The pound is buying at 4,856 and selling at 4,870 shillings. The euro is buying at 4,378, a little decline, and selling at 4,390. The Kenyan shillings at 33 shillings and selling at 33 shillings. This has remained stable for the past few days, actually, I think throughout the week. And the Tanzanian shilling is at 1.58 shillings and 1.58 shillings still. The South African rand is at 211. This is a little incline and selling at 212 shillings. Now, the question is, the domestic banks in Uganda, are they setting the rates too high for the people to borrow the money, or they are setting them too low? If so, why? This, we shall look at it on Monday. Don't forget to catch me again on Monday. Enjoy your weekend. It is Genesis again with the business angle. Let me send you right back to Latifah in the studio.
Well, thank you so much, Genesis, for that report. Now, we'll go for another break, and we come back. We'll be coming back with sports. Thank you for being with us.
Hey, what's up everybody? How you doing? My name is Him Kim, the entertainment guru, mastermind of fun, joy and happiness. You are watching STV Select for Fun.
The video comes out very well because that's our work.
Leero njagala obabuulire ku kintu ekyakuleese wano.
Twaza kushutinga video yaffe bagita obulambu nyuma kufa. Olina kulemerako nga SK Mbuga mwana. Nawe n'obeera influential mwana ku community. Okitegeera mwana.
Okugamba like it needs time to be kwatira shinyuma newe obudde you have to see I won't say much about that wabula kimanyi ngeri kyenkikolamu ne persona wange yampala train nange ng'omuntu.
Don't miss the free pass every Saturday on STV as we get the exclusive access.
Abalamuzi babagamba if the incumbent president frustrates all democratic means to leave power temusibayo muntu n'omu ku treason. This is why Besigye is released. Museveni ekibi kyalina talina mawulire. Nawandika n'ekitabo kyange the role of which could have been a malicious society sapule njijjamu
noyingire
katonda wa bujja nze katonda w'obujja bw'oba olaga eri sapule twekitwala omusajja omubbi bamujja ewuwe ewaka kabanga lyezi ne bamujja ewuwe ewaka yabadde mu ttooyi naye tebamukiriza na tusanitize bamutadde buteresi mu piikaavu ba mu state house naye omukyayina bwe yawulidde nti ono bamukutte yeesize kiwi yayitiddeko yadduse ng'omuddugavu.
Bampita Dr. Franklin Mondo Mugisha wano ku STV biri ku makyakera nange nga twogera ku nsonga ez'enjawulo engeri tusobola okwezimba mu ggwanga lyaffe engeri tusobola okuzimba gye tubeera gye tuva wategedde obwavu lwa kibuluma mikwano gy'abaavu baani otambula otya osula otya okusalawo okwo okw'obulamu kutandikira ku nfunayo emikwano gy'abagagga n'abaavu tusobola ogitegeera no ku STV tugenda kwogera ku nsonga z'abaslay queen tutambula tutya kukyusa omulembe gw'abawala baffe kubanga bafuuka babuvunaanyizibwa era nga bakozi nga banoonyi ba kikumi tugenda kwogera ku bakanyama bazimba batya emibiri ye omubiri bwe gulimu ssente oba bwe bulamu bwe twetaaga omukazi tasobola kuleka musajja w'emmotoka mukaaga mbwakute akwate 6 pack amufune mubatambule naye wano ku STV Big Network. See ya.
Olwogoto lwa waaka.
You're watching STV Select for Fun.
Again and welcome back from that slight break. Welcome back from the business angle with the Genesis. Now, it is a time that we are going to be diving into what's happening in the world of sports with Prince Juko. Hello, Juko.
Yes, njagala okwaniriza n'okwebaza gwe akyatulaba amachago olunaku olwaleero bwe bali kubanga okyali ku STV mu kanyomero kaffe ak'ebyemizannyo wofuna emizannyo bitambudde bitya era nga tujja kuba nga twogera ku biki ebibaddewo olunaku olwaleero nga bwe tugambye amawulire gamaze okuba gafulumizibwa mu ggwanga erya Tanzania emu ku clubs ez'amaanyi evudde nesayininga bannayuganda babiri kuba nono abasayiningiddwa abuliddwa endagaano kuliko omuvubuka gwe bayita Setuba ono nga mukwasi wa goal omuvubuka omulala gwe bayita Joseph Ziwa naye nga yasobola okuba nga abegattako Setuba yava mu club yavudde mu club gye bayita Sone Sugars okuva mu ggwanga erya Kenya n'agenda wali mu club eri eya Bahrain gyasobola okuba nga yegattako mu ggwanga erya Tanzania naye nga Setuba ne wano munda mu ggwanga yaliko mu clubs nga Nyamitobora yazanjirako naye nga era ebintu bitatambula bulungi sizoni wedde Nyamitobora yaddizibwayo n'abeera nga atambula nagenda mu ggwanga erya Kenya ne katambula gategeezeza nti endagaano yabaweereddwa ya myaka 2 mirambirira okuba nga basambira mu ggwanga erya Tanzania. Yenga ziwa yavudde mu Club Express okuba nti abegattako n'okuba nti abakolera ebintu ebirungi mu club eyo bwe batyo bannayuganda bwe basobola okuba nga batambula n'okuba nga balosa omutindo omulungi. Abavubuka bano babadde bavubuka balungi era nga clubs ze bavuddemu zibadde zikyabeetaaga naye nga okunoonya ofuna akawera n'ofuna akasente basazeewo bagende mu ggwanga era Tanzania basambireyo omupiira osobola aguyinza okuba nga gubakolera. Nga tuvuddeko wano mu club eyo eyabavuka abagenze mu Tanzania twagala okuba nga tugenda ate mu club ya Vipers. Amawulire gavaayo galaga nga abavubuka abamaze okuba nga bakakasibwa bano club agivuddeko. Kavubuka bano aboogerwako kuliko omuvubuka gwe bayita Brian Nkubi, oyo munange yatambuddeko. Nkubi Brian amaze emyaka 5 ngali ku timu ya Vipers nga basambira omupiira era y'omu ku abavubuka boyinza okugamba nti ababadde empajiruwaga era abajjukiro nnyo timu ya Vipers. Vipers ebikopo bina byakawungula ebya league era nga tusuubira nti Brian Nkubi abadde n'omukono mu miko ebyo ebikopo. Abalala boyinza okugamba kuliko goalkeeper gwe bayita Ochan naye yamaze okuba nti agenda kuba nga atambula yakasiddwa abamu ku abo abavudde club ya Vipers. Omulala bamuyita Musisi saako abamu ku abalala era nga bakakasiddwa omuvubuka ono gwe bayita Birikwalira naye yamaze okuba nti avaayo ku club ya Vipers. Vipers mu kaseera kana ne mu kwetereza naye nga ereetamu ku basambi neyongeramu abayinza okuba nga bagiyamba. Vipers ng'ogivuddeko tournament clubs ez'enjawulo zisaininga abasambi era tujja bikuwa mu bujjuvu era n'otutegeera biki ebigenda maaso ku ssaawa zaffe zibeera 5 ez'emisana paka saa 6 nga tukusako programu gye bayita Select Sports bonja okuba nti obifunira wabula nga tugenzeeko wabula eggwanga olunaku leero empaka eza Europa finals zigenda kuba nga zizanyibwa era nga bali mu nsiko esibalala club ya Sevilla egenda kutuuka ne club ya Inter Milan. Inter Milan ekikopo kino akyetaaga era omutenesi ono wa Inter Milan gwe bayita Antonio Conte ategeeza nti ayagala kuba nti awangula ekikopo sina kindi ogenda mpaka za Champions League. Inter Milan egala kuwangula ekikopo kyabwe ekyokuna oluvannyuma lw'emyaka 9 mirambirira nga tewangula ku kikopo. Inter etutte emyaka 9 nga tewangula kikopo wabula yo tiimu ya Sevilla oyinza okugamba nti abamu ku abo abawangudde ebikopo mu kya Europa naye nga kimaze okukakasibwa final ya saa zigenda kubeera nnyo ez'ekiro wali mu ggwanga erya German mu kibuga kye bayita Cologne gye bagenda okuba nga bambalaganira oba omupiira gye genda okuba nga guzannyibwa. Saagala kwongerako bingi njagala kukomekeza ano ku makya g'olunaku lwaleero mu First Show tujja kuba nga tuddingana ku saa zijja kubeera 5 okutuusaako ebyemizannyo ne Select Sports ojja kuba nga omufuna ekintabuli ky'ebyemizannyo. Mu kaseera kano nja kujeza wa Latifa akutwale mu maaso ne Chris bajja kuba nga bakutwala mu maaso. Program ekyali First Show yekyagenda mu maaso wano ku STV w'ogifunira. Obimanyi kati tobimanyi
Prince Juko webale nnyo ne sports now tugenda kumulamu era bwe tukomawo tugenda kuba tugamba bye bye naye nga tetunagenda Prince webale kunyuma
abwento just bulwadde bwange just
bajukize nti ku ssaawa 5 ogenda kukomawo ne sports
bwe kino okubeera ku ssaawa 5 agenda kudda ne ekintabuli ky'ebyemizannyo bagita Sport Select wagenda okulabira buli kiwetaaga kuba nti ofuna n'okumanya saa zigenda kubeera 5 nga tukuwa ebyemizannyo.
Wow, thank you so much. All right, now it is a time that we are going to be saying bye-bye to you. But before we do that, I want us to look at different comments that have been coming on Facebook. And we've been talking about quite a number of stories that have made headlines today. But before we do that, I think it's better we take a break and then come back with those comments as we shall also be saying bye-bye to you.
You're watching STV Select for Fun.
Abalamuzi babagamba nti if the incumbent president frustrates all democratic means to leave power temusibayo muntu n'omukutwiza. This is why Besigye is released. Museveni ekibi kyalina talina mawulire. Nawandika n'ekitabo kyange the role of which could have been a malicious society sapule njijjamu
noyingire sabo
katonda wa bujja nze katonda w'obujja bw'oba olaga eri sapule twekitwala omusajja omubbi bamujja ewuwe ewaka kabanga lyezi ne bamujja ewuwe ewaka yabadde mu ttooyi naye tebamukkiriza na tusanatayizi bamutadde butresi mu piikavu ba mu state house naye omukyayina bwe yawulidde nti ono bamukutte yeesize kiwi yayitiddeko yadduse ng'omuddugavu.
Hey guys, you're watching STV. Select for fun.
Unfortunately, we have to run out of the studios now, but we're going into the weekend, and that should be an exciting thing for you and me, because we're going to sleep a little bit more and we're going to enjoy the weekend, play some music, drink some soda, and I mean soda, drink some soda and have fun while you can. Life is short, so you better enjoy it while you can. Now, for those who want to look as good as I am looking, all you have to do is call JB Fashions on 0758-597322. Now, those are his numbers. Call them and get him to deliver these clothes at your doorstep and look as good as I do. JB Fashions, Grand Level 8. That's Grand Corner Level 8, and that's where you'll find him. I'd like to say goodbye and thank you all for being part of this team, and without you would be nothing. I don't want to forget Don, Mansour, Adam, Jafe, Husna Feti, and everybody else who was part of this program. And Mr. Alan Kwikireza and his wife Caroline would like to say congratulations, and we wish you all the best in your marriage.
Latifa, before you get lost, I have this question that's been bothering me, and today I want to challenge the IGP.
Oh, please look at the IGP and tell him that in his face.
I have a question that has been bothering me, and I want to do an investigation in regards to that. Martin Okoth Ochola, the IGP, and police spokesperson Afande Fred Enanga. I have a question. When police confiscates drugs, the likes of cocaine, marijuana, and the rest, where do they keep them? They say they banned them. Where do they ban them from? I want them to hold a presser and show us where those drugs are, and if they really ban them, I want to see them banning those drugs. Meanwhile, thank you so much for being part of this show, and I want to acknowledge just a few people that have been part of this show right from the start as we get lost from the studios. Well, we have Kisumu Memede, thank you so much for being part of the show. Evelyn, Kakasa, Prince Pop Patrick, and then Joshua Walcott, Lukia Mudua, thank you so much. And the list is really quite huge or long. My name is Simon Chris Makanga, and may the good Lord of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob be with you not until we meet. That will be on Monday for yet another edition of The First Show. For now, I am not around.
Hey guys, you're watching STV. Select for fun.